929 here, Big 550 KTRS. Robert Patrick from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch in here for the very first time. Good morning, Robert Patrick.
Good morning, McGraw.
You wrote a story about Cortez Cooper, which we read, and we just could not believe what happened to Cortez Cooper, and we could not believe how many people are being held by accident in the city of St. Louis. Tell us the story of Cortez Cooper.
Well, Cortez is actually an interesting one because back in October 27th, we published a story detailing the findings of a roughly year-and-a-half investigation. And based on the information available to us, we found 100 people who had been arrested and held for some period of time in jail by mistake.
Okay, so you found out through your digging around, 100 people were arrested wrongly.
Right.
And in your story, you say held for more than 2,000 days.
Collectively, yeah.
Collectively.
That's what we believe based on the public records that are available to us.
Over a 5-year period?
You know, it's, I don't know, 7. It's complicated to answer that question because, you know, we made an information request to the police department for a certain period of time, but those cases led us to other cases. So the bulk is probably, 2007 onward, but there's stuff that goes back.
Sure. 1 is a big story. 100 is unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm 100 in the context of the number of people that they arrest every year in St. Louis. I think it depends on your perspective. If you're one of the 100, I think you can look at that. And there are a lot of people that say 1 is too many, including the city officials. If you look at it as a pure percentage of the number of people arrested, it's very small. But we also don't know. 100 is what we found. There are others out there. There are 69. So the bulk of these, my colleague Jennifer Mann and I got the bulk of these from a request for fingerprint comparisons. Judge says, take this guy or this gal to the police station and find out who they are. So we started out with a couple hundred of those. There were 69 that we did not opt to get because it was about $1,000 for those 69 records.
Sure.
And there are some that have happened since. So there are, and that's just one measure. So I don't know what the end number will be if anyone ever tries to do this in a different way.
But these 100 who were taken or were arrested, were they arrested because they were the wrong place, wrong time? It sounds to me like these people were just walking down the street and the cops said, "Hey, we want to talk to you," and they arrest the guy thinking it's somebody else.
Sometimes. There's a bunch of different ways that this happens. Sometimes it's you get pulled over for speeding or, some other traffic violation. They run your name. If someone has used your name in some other arrest, then they say, "Hey, we think this might be you." The causes of these are across the board. Sometimes it's a clerical error. Sometimes, in one case, somebody clicked on the wrong name when they were setting up the file in the courthouse. Sometimes it's, if I use your name, if you've never been arrested before, I get arrested, I use your name, and I bond out before they figure out that I'm not who I say I am, then, our names will forever be linked.
Right.
And when I don't bother to show up for court, the warrant's going to go out for you.
Right.
And so you could,
You're minding your own business. Somebody else used your name, ditched out, and all of a sudden you get stopped for speeding or you're, whatever, and all of a sudden you're the bad guy.
And there are also cases where, there are definitely cases where you've got friends, relatives, whatever, that are using each other's names. The people who are giving a false name are doing it for very specific reasons. I might be on probation. I get picked up again. I don't want to get violated on my probation, so I give your name.
Right.
Or, the first time I'm arrested, I don't want to be held responsible, so I.
So it's a form of identity theft in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
What's the longest somebody's been held by accident?
According to our research, there was a guy, two different incarcerations, one of 134 days, one of 77 days. Now the prosecutors are disputing that. They say that the 134-day stint was on his own probation violation, but that's not what the jail records show. And so far no one has provided us with any evidence to the contrary.
Okay, and the other one,
211 days, if I didn't say that.
211 days. So guys,
Right.
like 2/3 of a year, it's almost.
Right.
And the other guy was 77 days. Did you say the other one?
One arrest was 134 days. One arrest was 77 days. He and his brother, I think that there were other mistakes, but we couldn't. We were using a combination of court records, police records, jail records, and if we couldn't back up the jail stay, then we didn't use it.
Right. Why is it so hard? I get the misinformation. I get the identity theft. What's hard to understand is once the mistake is initially made, why does it take so long to correct it?
I don't know.
Short answer.
One of the problems is sometimes so in the example I gave before where I use your name.
Right.
Let's say I've been arrested before and fingerprinted before, or you had been fingerprinted before. At some point, someone's going to get an email, police, prosecutors, some other people are going to get an email that said, hey, the first time Robert Patrick was arrested, he didn't use the name McGraw-Milhaven. He used Robert Patrick, or he used some other name. And that's kind of their cue to take another look at this and say, well, what is his real name? So, that's one way that these things are found and fixed. But I don't think that there's no one magic solution to this.
Right.
It's a combination of things. There's some IT issues. There's some training issues that the police and City Hall have cited. And there's the whole fingerprint. If you run the fingerprints and you get those results back right away, I think you can stop that from happening.
Robert Patrick is our guest. He's with St. Louis Post-Dispatch, STLTODAY.com. Can you stick around for another segment?
Of course.
It's 9:36 here on the Big 550. Robert Patrick
KTRS.
is with us, STLTODAY.com reporter, St. Louis Post-Dispatch reporter with us. Did a story along with his colleague Jennifer Mann about over 100 people, at least 100 people, were arrested wrongly. Spent more than 2,000 days behind bars, and the story has created quite a bit of controversy, Robert. The first segment we were talking about what happened, and your research. What has been the reaction from the city officials once or I guess as you were reading the story, you were talking to them, and
Right.
what was the reaction as you went to them with these numbers?
Well, at the end of July, we presented them with an initial list of, at that point, 74 cases where we said, based on public records, we think that these cases are an example where someone was mistakenly arrested. Across the criminal justice system, public defenders, prosecutors, City Hall, police, sheriff's office, etc. And we said, we're not telling you what to do, but there are things that we don't know, that we don't have access to, wanteds and warrants and holds and everything else. And so this is based on available information, and we'd appreciate your feedback on this. And what we got was an interview in late September where they sort of responded to the list in general. We've never gotten a comprehensive response to the individual cases, despite their promises to do that.
Right.
And since the story has run, I think they're unhappy with the way that some of their comments were characterized, and they've also attacked the numbers. They've cited several specific cases, including the Cortez Cecil Cooper case and the case of the guy who was incarcerated for 211 days. But they still have not given us a list, any kind of, here's what we think. And I mean, short of putting on a sandwich board and walking back and forth in front of City Hall and the prosecutor's office, I don't think there was anything else we could do to get that list. I was practically begging, saying like, hey, you guys have put in all these hours. Please, give us your conclusions. We just want to be able to say, we think this happened. Police say this happened. Prosecutors say this happened. We
Right.
were it's sort of unprecedented.
I
think
you were begging for their side of the story.
Right. I think it was, at least, my editor said at the Post-Dispatch in his memory, it was kind of unprecedented to sort of turn over the product of all of that research and say, here are our conclusions months before we're publishing. And we'd like a response.
You write in the story that Jennifer Joyce says that her staff spent 150 hours researching your findings.
Right.
And In that research of the 150 hours, she disclosed none of that research to you.
There were some highlight cases that we had presented to them, and they've responded to some of those. We asked for everything, and they said she's got an outside consultant who's been kind of honchoing this, who said, I don't feel comfortable sharing those because we're not 100% confident in them, and there are discrepancies between what we believe and what police believe.
Right.
And I said, I don't care. I want to be able, like I said, I want to be able to say, prosecutors say this, police say that. And she said, well, some of the information is confidential because these are closed cases. And I said, well, just take that out. She said, well, we're going to have to charge you. And I said, give me an estimate. We reached out in an attempt to be as accurate as possible.
Once the story came out, which came out how long ago?
October 27th.
Okay, October 27th. But then there was this you've been following up throughout the whole deal.
There have been, developments. There's an alderman who's interested in this. There are 2 civil cases that are going on as well, and then obviously Cortez Cooper, his situation this week.
Right. So there's been a good month, I guess.
Right.
Since that month has come out, what have they said? Have they reached out to you, say we're going to do more, we're going to release more, help us? Here's what we say.
Eddie Roth is Mayor Francis Slay's director of operations, and he has made a bunch of Facebook and Twitter postings about the story. He's sent some emails to us. The prosecutors kind of indirectly have raised some issues, only in 2 specific cases, the Cortez Cecil Cooper case and the 211-day guy.
We should say that Cecil Cooper went to get his name cleared.
Cortez.
And was arrested.
He was handcuffed and detained.
He went in to say, hey, by the way, my name's attached to the wrong guy, my brother. That's not me. I'm innocent. And they handcuffed him.
He and his mother were worried that so Cecil Cooper was arrested February 24th. Charged as Cortez. Cecil's 25, Cortez is 20, going to school.
Doing all the right things.
Hopes to be in the NFL someday. Used to play football and I think volleyball for Maplewood. He was concerned that Cecil's arrests were on his record, and he had applied to the post office and got turned down. And I think, obviously you want to get it straight. And so Monday he went in and to get his background check. I was there. His mom was there. They kept him waiting about an hour, and then his mom and I were both in the lobby at that point. We saw a couple of police officers, which is not unusual in police headquarters, but they kind of did a circle of the lobby and then went back to the records room. And I think his mom and I both had the same thought at the same time, like they can't possibly be going back there to arrest Cortez. And she went back right as they were bringing him out, and indeed he was in handcuffs because they were not sure if he was Cortez or Cecil, and Cecil was in jail but also had a warrant from St. Louis County for his arrest because he didn't show up for court.
So how long did he stay in jail for?
Cortez?
Yeah.
He actually was, I think they were going to take him to the jail to figure out who he was, but he has a copy, folded up in his wallet. He has a copy of a court order that says, in this case that we wrote about, Cortez is not the right defendant in this case. And I think that combination of his mom and that paper sort of.
So he's walking around with papers from the government saying, "This, I'm not who you think I am."
Right.
Sam Dotson, say anything to you? Is he on the record at all? Mayor Slay reach out to you or say anything about any of this?
Mayor Slay has said that Mayor Slay's put Eddie Roth in charge of dealing with this. We wrote about this for the first time back in, I think, January of 2012. And in March, they announced that they were going to form this pivot team, prisoner identification, verification, something, that was going to kind of attack the problem. And Roth was in charge of that. So Roth, and Roth has also sort of led the way in criticizing the story, which is, obviously, I think it's his right and it's good. And
sure, that's the way. Right, yeah.
And it, in fact, attracts more attention to the issue, which is a good thing. But, I think we had this meeting with Sam Dotson, Jennifer Joyce, Eddie Roth, and some other people, and they were pretty unified in saying, hey, look, we're working on this, but everybody's using each other's names, and they all have criminal records, and, this is a very rare occurrence in the city.
All right, I have just about a minute left.
Yep.
Robert Patrick with us from STLTODAY.com. An investigation. 100 people or more have spent at least 2,000 days behind bars for wrongful arrests. Is there any connection or any cities, similar numbers? Do we have any way to compare us to other cities?
Well, populations are obviously different. Denver, the ACLU, is in the process of, through a lawsuit, got a lot of numbers. They were at 600.
So it's a problem in every city.
Well, I think that's what there are people out there that think that in any big city you're going to have this problem.
Right. Wow. Scary stuff where you're walking down the street and you're picked up wrongfully accused. You think it happens once in a while, but it happens more than we think. Robert Patrick, thank you for coming in, spending a couple minutes with us, shedding some light on the story, and great work.
My pleasure.
You got it. 9:51, we'll come back, wrap things up. Big 550.